We are also been working with the county on a study, National Transportation Safety Board. This is something that I actually started initiating as a council person. I remember when I was opposed to the plan as an activist, to the original plan, and they said, well, we're going to reroute Patterson, and that's how you're going to get a nice large park. And I said, really? Is that possible? I remember going to the county, and they said, well, that's in your master plan, but nobody asked us, So I really pushed hard to say, we need to know, can we reroute Patterson Plank or not? And we need a decision from the engineers, not from the politicians. And so I went to the county executive's position was, well, if you get consensus from Jersey City, then I'll work with you to find the funding. And I worked with Jersey City, Director Sachs was involved in that, and we got a consensus, went to the county, and then we got a $350,000 grant to do a study. And that study is on its way to being completed. They should be coming back in the next several months with some recommendations on short-term measures, which I want to assure those that live in the Southwest, we are going to implement those measures as quickly as we possibly can. Because obviously I live in the neighborhood, so I know that the traffic problems are monumental, and unfortunately it takes doing a traffic study. You can't just change the roads. You have to do a traffic study, and that study will be completed, and actually it was a Stevens student, Andy Kaplan, that originally did a lot of the research. He did a major senior design project, which was so helpful, which was provided to the NTSB. It really helped to move that process along. So we're looking forward to getting those short-term recommendations, and then within 6 months, we're looking forward to hearing the recommendations from the engineers. Can we reroute Patterson Plank? Can we do it on the Hoboken side? Can we do it on the Jersey City side? Obviously, I as mayor hope that it's on the Jersey City side, but again, I'm going to leave it to the engineers, hear what their recommendations are, and then we'll be hopefully in a position where we're then starting the planning process, assuming that Southwest Parks is deemed as an area in need of development, and that the city council votes to make it an area in need of redevelopment, that we'll start the planning process as soon as possible. So anyway, I just want to assure you that we are, in fact, really moving forward on that project. Boys and Girls Club, Director Mayer is going to be here if you have questions on the environmental process for the Boys and Girls Club. There's been community members that have been really working hard to move that, looking for grants and moving forward with putting in new equipment at the Boys and Girls Club. And the city applied for an EPA remediation grant and applied for working with the community to kaboom for playground equipment. So we're hopeful, we're confident actually that funding will come through. Again, this is something where it may take longer than the community would like, but we'll find out in the spring about the EPA grant, and I think it's important that we always, as much as we want to move forward with parks, we also have to be cognizant of the taxpayers, and so we're going to be trying to use those grants as much as possible. Church Square Park, can't thank Project Play enough and Hoboken Family Alliance for all the work that they have done in advocating for making changes to Church Square Park. We've worked with them to have several community meetings, and again, we've applied to the EPA for soil testing. There's changes in the law as far as the standards for parks, and so when we make a decision that we're going to upgrade and pull up the surface, then that means that we have to look at doing upgrades. Obviously, we need to make sure that we're meeting the standards for the DEP and that it's completely safe for our children. So anyway, just want to give a quick update on that. Maxwell Place Park, the city is working towards accepting the deed for Block E, and that's the pier out in front of the waterfront. And also, it's just to let you know, it's on the agenda for December 15th. For those of you who may not be so familiar with that project, essentially what we're trying to make sure to do is do our due diligence, just as if you were buying a house and you would make sure to do the inspections, make sure that it's got all the titles and everything is in place, and that's what we're doing. That's essentially what we're doing with Maxwell Place. We're just trying to make sure to protect the interests of the city before we fully accept that deed. So I'm hopeful that that will go through without any major issues. Let's see, 14th Street Viaduct, we did go through a community process. Really appreciate everyone that was involved in that. It was a little bit faster than I would have liked, but essentially we reached out to the county and we're thankful that they gave us the opportunity to provide some feedback, because that project has been underway for many, many years, and the former, for whatever reason, there was no feedback at all from the city of Hoboken. There was no public input at all. So we did go through a community process, worked with stakeholders to come back, and there'll be a dog run and a playground and additional recreational area under the viaduct across from Clearview Cinemas. So we're looking forward to that. Pier A and Pier C, part of the reason I've established a Friends at Pier A and Pier C is to get people brainstorming about what do we want to see on our waterfront. I mean, there's stands. Would we be interested in having concession stands out there? Are we interested in looking potentially for grant money or trying to get volunteers to offer educational programs on Pier A and on Pier C? We have this great, with Pier C, this great new fishing circle, which actually it's set up so that there's the fish can hatch their eggs. There's crates under some kind of environmental system where we're assured that it'll be teeming with fish come next summer. And so I think it would be great if we could somehow organize the community and have like fishing programs for the children. It's just an idea, but we need arms and legs to help us get all of this done, and I'm hopeful that the community would be interested in working with us to get that done. So if that's something that might be of interest to you, we encourage you to sign up to be on that group. We also, for the last several months, probably since last fall, we've been talking to Executive Director Garcia about doing a shared service agreement for the Housing Authority field. I think given the challenges that we faced with the location for the soccer this fall, I think it's really important that we try to move forward. One of the questions is that if we really want to make that field something that we can use even more often, is the question of whether or not we turf it and potentially partner as far as the costs. We went through the process. I want to thank Director Pellegrini for going through the process of getting estimates. It's potentially a $650,000 cost to turf the field and the Housing Authority, and so we as a city need to think about how much we could put in to help that, and I think we're in a position to fully fund it. And then as far as Sinatra Park, I'm just going to give a brief update, and then again, Joe Pamonte is here. He's got maps right over there, and he'll be answering all of your questions on this. But we've gone, since this happened last year, we've gone through the process of choosing an engineer. Unfortunately, that process took longer than we expected for a number of reasons. But the engineers have been doing the investigation, doing the design concept, working with the DEP, doing the geotechnical studies, and on December 15th, we're going to be, formally putting in our application with the DEP. And I'm told that the way the process works is you make sure that you work with the DEP, make sure that you have consensus with them, and then you formally put in the application. The key, and this is where I really need everyone in this room, I really need your help. I have been told that it can take as long as, I don't want to scare you, but 1 to 2 years to get approval from the DEP for the field. Now, I have talked to my contact down at the DEP, and she said, oh, no, it doesn't have to take that long. But my plan, and I really think that this can help, is to try and work with everyone to possibly start a petition drive, to write as many letters as possible, and then I'm going to be going down to the DEP with the engineers and talking to the commissioner, talking to my contact and saying, we really need this field. This is an emergency for our community, and we ask that you expedite this process. And again, my contact has told me, yes, that is something that we really could do. That is something that we could work with your community to expedite the process. So that's what we're going to be trying to do. The construction is estimated to take about 6 to 9 months. In the meantime, we've been working very hard to try and get funding. We're close to getting funding from the federal government, thanks to Senator Lautenberg and Senator Menendez and Congressman Sears, $1 million in transportation funding. We asked for $1 million from the Hudson County Open Space Board, and the board is recommending $500,000. We've asked for $2 million for Green Acres. We're waiting to hear back on that. I've met several times with the Port Authority, and we're hopeful, I'm disappointed, and we'll be honest, that the ARC Tunnel project isn't going through, but now they have a little extra money, so I'm hoping maybe they can help us out on several fronts, the park being one of them, which I've already discussed with them. I do want to ask you to, in the meantime, as we think about everything that's happened with our waterfront, I just want to ask you to think about, this is a suggestion from our engineer, think about the possibility of moving the park back onto land. And so that potentially could reduce the costs by an estimated, this is a conservative estimate of $3 to $4 million. But also, and I think this is really the more important thing for us to think about, is potentially it could address the concerns of Frank Sinatra Drive. I know that for many residents, and I know as far as we went through the bicycle planning process, there's a lot of concern about Frank Sinatra Drive, that it's used as a highway, that it's difficult to run there, you've got cars flying by you, there's kind of a controversy between cyclists and people trying to jog, moms running down, jogging down the street with their joggers. So it's a question of how do we want, and so I ask you to think about it and provide not only your verbal feedback, but your written feedback. And we have little stickies, and we really just want to hear your thoughts on how do you use Frank Sinatra Drive? How do you want it to be used? And when you think about the fact that Frank Sinatra Drive, when you're walking or biking on the section of Frank Sinatra Drive that goes from Newark to 4th Street, how does that feel versus how does it feel when you go from 4th to 11th? What's the difference in feeling for you? What's your feedback? So we're just asking, this is, we just want to hear your thoughts on thinking about that idea, because potentially bringing the park in and having it just on land could enable us to save some money and to address some of the concerns with Frank Sinatra Drive. But I do want to assure you that we are moving full steam ahead with the original plan. So that, we're putting that into the DEP, moving as quickly as possible, and we'll be doing the advocating, continuing to try and get as much funding as we possibly can. If there was potentially some consensus around looking at moving it in off of the land, that is something that we could work with the DEP and make that change. But essentially, once we give up that space, that real estate, so to speak, over the water, we're not going to be able to get it back. So it is a big decision for our community, but I'm hoping to hear your feedback tonight as we have additional meetings, maybe discuss it with you a little bit more, and if there is potentially some support for it, then it's something that we would pursue further. So we definitely want to hear your thoughts on that. So now I think if everyone can stand up, and we're just going to, did you want to say a few words about it? No? Okay, so I think we're just going to break out into tables again. Director Forbes is going to be answering your questions on, talking to you about 1600 Park, Hoboken Cove. Joe Camonte is right over here. Joe, if you can raise your hand. He's here, has maps for you to look at. And again, please write down your feedback on Sinatra Park, your thoughts on that. Director Pellegrini is here to talk to you a little bit about the shared service agreement with the Housing Authority, hear your feedback on any other programs. And Director Sachs also will be, can answer questions on potential transportation issues with regard to Sinatra Park. So, and again, and Director Mayer is here as well, and she will answer any questions on, the environmental process for Church Square Park and the Boys and Girls Club, also talking about Pier A and Pier C. So again, we thank you for being here, and we're just going to sort of break and sort of go to the working tables. Thank you. Bye.